A very good morning to the coordinators of the refresher program on disaster management and to all the participants. Today, as part of my seminar, I would be talking on the Baghjan gas leak in Assam, India. So we all by now have a fair idea about what a disaster is and what are the three specific causes of disaster. It could be a natural cause. The examples are earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, which are natural disasters. It could be man-made. The man-made disasters could be classified as chemical spills, pollution, landslides due to construction in areas where there are loose soils or we don't have a stable ground, or a nuclear fallout. And sometimes there is a third category of disaster, which is a complex, which is termed as complex, when you have a combination of any of these two, natural and man-made disaster. So today I have picked up this particular topic of man-made disaster, the Baghjan gas leak in Assam, and which happened in the year 2020. And through this presentation, I intend to highlight some of the impacts of this blowout in the ecosystem and the flora, fauna, and the communities residing in that particular blowout site. So before I get into the topic, let us all understand what an oil spill or a gas spill is. So an oil spill, it is the release of a liquid petroleum hydrocarbon into the environment, especially in the marine ecosystem due to human activity, and it is a form of pollution. You are polluting the natural environment, the marine system. However, not just marine, oil spills or gas spills or gas leaks can also happen on land. So the Baghjan gas leak is an example. Oil spills may be due to release of crude oil from tankers, offshore platforms, drilling rigs and wells, as well as the spills of refined petroleum products and their byproducts, heavier fuels used by large ships such as bunker fuel, or the spill of any oily refuse or waste oil. So, and across the globe we have examples of oil spills, and the Torrey Canyon oil spill that occurred in March 18, 1967 is one of the devastating oil spill, and it's the first oil spill disaster that happened, and because of which 25 to 36 million gallons of oil were spilled into the sea. So you can well imagine the quantum of oil that were mixed with the seawater, and the cascading impact that could have on the marine ecosystem. These are again another examples of the Sea Star oil spill that occurred in 19 December 1972, spilling around 35.3 million gallons of oil into the sea. This particular picture here shows that how the black crude oil is getting mixed up with the seawater. The Odissi oil spill is another example, which occurred on 10th November 1988, releasing around 40.7 million gallons of oil into the sea. So clearly, we can well imagine that when an oil spill occurs, the amount of impact that it could have in the ecosystem. So, coming to the topic of my seminar today, which is the Baghjan gas leak. So this is a very this particular gas leak, it occurred in the year 2020, and it is also referred as the Baghjan gas leak. It is a natural gas blowout that happened in Oil India Limited's Baghjan oil field in Tinsukia district of Assam on 27th May 2020. And the blowout occurred on 27th May 2020, but the subsequent fire on well number 5 in the Baghjan oil field, which is owned by Oil India Limited, that fire happened on 9th June 2020, nearly 2 weeks after the blowout happened. So Oil India Limited, just a little background to give you all an idea about what it is. It is a Navratna company owned by the Government of India, state-owned enterprise of the Government of India. It is a fully integrated exploration and production company in the upstream sector, and its origin dating back to the glorious year of oil discovery in India in the year 1889. So this particular Oil India Limited had this particular well in Baghjan oil field in Tinsukia, and which was named as the well number 5, and the blowout happened in this particular well. So there were devastating impacts on, just as the impacts of oil spill in seas and oceans affecting the marine ecosystem. This particular gas leak and the blowout had a devastating impact on the surrounding ecosystem. We'll look in the subsequent slides how the impacts were. So this is a drone image of the blowout of well number 5. The fire can be seen there, and these are the areas, the agricultural fields surrounding that particular site getting devastated, getting impacted by this blowout. So over here, this particular image by Rohan Chakravarti, he tried to draw some cartoon images of the impacts of Oil India Limited's latest oil spill at Baghjan, and you can well see that how the impacts are: fishes, heaps of fishes getting, mass of fishes getting, fishes dying. There were dolphins dying. I mean, all the aquatic fauna and flora in the wetlands surrounding that particular blowout site were affected. Communities, I mean, had to leave, had to be evacuated because their entire houses were burned down because of this particular blowout. And the effects of this particular blowout were cascading. When I say cascading, I mean it had this entire impact, and even after, towards the end, we'll see that how even after 2 years of this particular blowout happening, communities there near the blowout site still fail to grow their crops or paddies in those barren lands. So on the day of the when the blowout happened, dense particles or condensates from the blowout have turned the local atmosphere misty. So this is an image here, and then rain-like droplets have fallen on the vegetation, leading to the formation of a sticky layer of oil. This particular images here from the Baghjan site highlights how this banana plantation close to the site were all filled up with sticky layer of oil. On the picture on the left, you can see how, you know, all this oil layers got stuck in the leaves, in the tea leaves. Then this is yet another picture highlighting how the oil spills, or how the leaves were, I mean, all covered with oil spills. So this is a particular river dolphin which is common in the wetlands in Assam, and the condition of the dolphin in this particular picture, which is close to the blowout site, is a testimony to the fact, to the extent of the contamination and the danger that the Baghjan blowout carried. I mean, there were lots of fishes which were dead because of, in the wetlands wetlands and bills surrounding the blowout site, bearing testimony to the impacts that it had. This is of a rare species, again, a dead soft shell turtle, getting highlighting how these these aquatic systems, these aquatic faunas were getting affected in those particular area. This is a typical frog, Indian bull frog carcass covered in crude oil. So again, close to the oil spill site. Then this image here shows how the charred vegetation, I mean all the trees and plantations close to that particular site were all burned down, and oil coats wetland habitat. This is a particular wetland surrounding that particular blowout site, because of the blowout and the gas leak, these were all, I mean, there were heaps of, you know, oil spills and leachate on the wetland. So this is a closer image of oil sleek covering the Maguri, Mauplang, Bill, and how these are eco-sensitive zones, and when there is this huge amount of, you know, oil sleeks getting released or getting mixed with this sensitive eco zones, the effects would be devastating. So the smokes and fumes that occurred from the blowout site, it rose up to it was visible up to 10 km from the site of accident. I mean, this particular image highlighting that how the smoke emerged. This is a drone image of the surrounding area, highlighting the extent of habitat damage in the blowout site. So this image here shows how rescue workers were trying to recover a body of a worker following the explosion, okay, at the Baghjan well 5. And official reports states that close to 12,000 people from 10 villages close to the Baghjan site who depend on the Maguri Motapang wetland in Tinsukia district for their livelihood were severely impacted by the condensates flowing uncontrollably from the Oil India operated Baghjan well 5 from May to November 2020. Why May to November 2020? Because it occurred in May, but the blowout was killed. When I say killed, the well was killed only in November, because and when the oil was killed, only then the fire came under control. So this is the if you can well imagine, these communities who are entirely dependent on this wetland ecosystem getting severely impacted. The blowout was killed, as I just said, on November 15, 2020, 173 days after the blowout, with a technique called snubbing. And to do this particular well killing, experts from other countries, from Canada, were brought in to kill the well. Okay. Subsequently, well number 5 was abandoned on 3rd December 2020. Oil India Limited eventually abandoned that particular well. An investigation by a committee appointed by the National Green Tribunal, it revealed in November 2020 that Oil India Limited had failed to obtain legally required clearances to operate the oil field at Baghjan. Yet it went ahead and operated that well in Baghjan. And it had failed to comply with provisions of environmental laws as well as with internal safety procedures in relation to drilling at the oil field. Further, this particular report by the National Green Tribunal, it resonated with the findings of the report by Assam State Pollution Control Board, which also stated that or reported that Oil India Limited did not obtain the necessary clearances before drilling that particular oil well in Baghjan in Tinsukia district. However, okay, this is a particular news that came up just a few days back, which stated that 2 years after oil field disaster, bitter harvest in Baghjan. It means that even today farmers are trying hard to grow their paddy in those barren agricultural field, but there is no wind. I mean, they cannot go ahead and do the crops or grow their paddies. They are trying to do alternate cultivation, alternate vegetation cultivation like cucumber, but yet I mean there is no success. So there are major concerns regarding how these communities would strive, or how these communities would further go ahead and adopt livelihood. And there are concerns for the ecosystem. There are concerns also for these communities. So however, key factors which were responsible for the blowout, according to the Supreme Court committee, yes, Oil India Limited was responsible. In terms of not ensuring necessary health, safety, and environmental safeguards. Equally responsible were the complete and comprehensive violations of the principle of eco-sensitive zones. What I mean by eco-sensitive zones are like the Dibru-Saikhowa National Park or National Biosphere Reserve, not the National Park, Biosphere Reserve, and the wetlands close to this Baghjan site. Those are eco-sensitive zones notified by Ministry of Environmental, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. And these zones should have been no-go zones for any company. However, they went ahead without having the clearances. They had their wells drilled, and you know, and you could see the outcome of what happened when the blowout happened. You know, because of the blowout, there were the burnt had to be felt by had to be borne by not just the communities but by the ecosystem in those particular areas. Absence of any meaningful baselines and management plans for Maguri, Motapang wetlands and Dibru Saikwa National Park, and a lackadaisical approach to management of this biodiversity hotspot. There were no management plans, you know, or there were no meaningful baselines as against, you know, there could have been estimates made, exact estimates made of the loss in those particular zones. For the ineffective ecosystem monitoring system to assess ecosystem health and absence of infrastructure, even at the state level, to monitor contaminants related with oil and gas industry. There was none of this available. There is none of this available even today in those particular area. Lack of any mechanism for covering risk to human health, livelihoods and assets located within the vicinity of oil and gas production areas. So these were, and along with this, overlooking the risk posed by oil and gas industry in disaster risk reduction planning, and finally no investment in capacity development. I mean, to kill the well, they had to get an expert from a different country. So you can well imagine the, you know, the capacities of the internal capacities of, you know, such industries or such companies in handling a particular crisis situation. So there is no investment in capacity development, including site and situation specific standard operating procedures for handling the risk of oil and gas production related accidents. And because of all of this, you know, innocent communities had to give up their livelihoods, have to bear the brunt of all of this effects. Along with this, the sensitive ecosystem in those particular areas are also affected. This was all about the Baghjan gas leak in Assam, and thank you very much for your patient hearing.